Hello, everybody who's joining our webinar this morning, or this afternoon, I guess, depending on where you're at. We'll give us a few minutes for everybody to join, and then we will get started. Raymond, I forgot to ask, where are you located? I'm assuming in the South.
In Texas.
Texas, okay.
Yeah.
So you're not
I'm
going to be
at,
that far away from us, maybe, when we come down there in September for our conference?
no, I'm in Port O'Connor, so it's about 6 hours
Okay.
drive, but
Mm-hmm.
not that far flying, but I'll probably just drive up there. All my family lives there.
Oh, nice. Well, that's
Yeah.
good. Good, good. All right. Well, we will go ahead and get started, everybody. Again, thank you for joining us today for our TribalHub webinar with ESET. We're going to be talking about overcoming security resources with ESET MDR. And Raymond Neff is going to be our presenter today. ESET is a TribalHub associate member, so thank you for your membership. And you guys, ESET will also be at TribalNet this year. So if you are planning to come to TribalNet, make sure you stop by their booth. While you're listening to today's webinar, if you have any questions whatsoever, make sure you use the chat or you can use the Q&A feature to enter your question, and we'll make sure to get that answered before the end of the call today. Tomorrow you will receive an email from Zoom that will have a link to a recording of this webinar. If you wanted to share that with anybody on your team, that would be wonderful. And I think that's it. So with that, Raymond, I'm going to turn it over to you to start the webinar.
Thanks, Michelle. Welcome, everybody. Glad to be here. My name's Raymond Neff. I'm a sales engineer with ESET North America. Been around for about 11 years now with ESET, so I've been around quite a while, all the way back to the early days. But anyway, to get started, really my objective today is to help you understand how threats continue to evolve, right? The basic endpoint solution is really not enough to keep your organization safe. So we got to be more proactive and less reactive to threats, right? We need visibility into what's going on into our network. Okay. And we need somebody or we need the people to monitor it because timing is critical. So companies are getting breached at a high rate because of that lack of visibility. So MDR is really becoming essential for actively detecting, responding, and stopping advanced threats across that modern attack landscape. So what are we going to be talking about? Of course, we're going to talk about who is ESET. And a lot of people maybe not have heard of us, but we've been around for over 30 years, been around a while. We're going to talk about the cost of cybercrime, why XDR, and why MDR. Because you need an XDR tool for somebody to be able to monitor it 24 by 7 for you. And then, of course, we're going to go over a current incident report from our MDR team that if you had our MDR service that you would get if something happened into your environment. So why ESET? We are a global company. Why is that important? If you're using a company that's just in the US, they don't have the telemetry data or the threat intelligence that we have. Of course, we've been in business, I think, over 35 years now. So we've been around a long time. So with that telemetry that we're collecting, we have hundreds of millions of endpoints installed across the globe. Of course, they're in every language that there is. So you can see how we could stop a threat that's in another country before it even hits the US or before a US based company would even know it, right? So we are protecting over 1 billion endpoints with all of our alliances and our endpoint technology. We are technology focused. You're not going to see ESET on the side of a race car. You're not going to see a Super Bowl commercial. We're spending all of our money on our technology. We have 13 R&D centers. We develop all of our own products. We don't do any kind of white labeling or buy any of their products or to build that into ours. Okay. We're privately held and debt free. We're owned by the original founders. This is important because you're not just a number to us. if you become one of our customers, we're a partner with you. We don't just sell you the product, leave you alone, you never hear from us again. So it's nice to be a smaller, privately held, debt-free company. We're not held by shareholders, and we pretty much can go in whatever direction that we want with our technology. We are a leader in AI and machine learning. Of course, we were the first company to come out with machine learning in the or late 90s, like 1997. So we built our own models, our own machine learning models from our threat intelligence and our telemetry, and we're building those models into even more AI models in our environment. So the ESET principles, of course, we want to be reliable, right? We're research driven. Like I said, we have 13 R&D centers across the globe. So we are more about research and more about developing products to better protect your environment. We want to be accurate. We don't want you fighting false positives. We want to make sure business continuity is minimal disruption. So we don't want you worrying about, hey, is this something real or not, right? A big reason why a lot of companies come to ESET is we're fast. We're lightweight, no matter what we're doing, no matter which product you buy. We take pride in that. So we want to have the highest detection rate with the least false positives in your environment with, the best performance, right? We want to make it easy to use, intuitive solution. We want to lighten the load on your IT team. We don't want you to have to be in our Protect console every day doing something, eating up cycles when you could be doing something else. We just want to be a solid platform to where you can pretty much set it and leave it and then not have to work, have that peace of mind, right? That you're protected. So let's talk about the cost of cybercrime. I guess most everybody knows this, but it is a trend. It's just going to get bigger and bigger. It's going to start costing customers more and more. Our adversaries, they're just collecting more money. It's costing us more money to fight them. But I see a huge uptick in our customers moving to MDR because MDR is the answer to a lot of these threats that are happening right now. So as they evolve, they're really more attacking you through vulnerabilities and breaching you and just doing normal behavior, right? So let's talk about ransomware payments. I thought this was interesting, but I was like, do people still pay ransomware to get their data back or get their encryption key? And they are. One of the biggest payouts that we see is $40 million one company paid to get their data back. But you can see the uptick in it. It's not going down. They're still paying ransomware payments out to them. And as long as people keep paying ransomware because they don't have the right backups in place or whatever, they're just going to keep on attacking our customers. So let's talk about SME, small to medium businesses. They're getting hit 82% of the time. SMBs are the low hanging fruit because of a lot of reasons and a lot of gaps, within their company. So the threats don't change with the size of the company; they're still there. But the enterprise companies have more money. They don't lack security in their environments. A lot of times they have a security team, a SOC or a NOC in their environment. A little bit harder to infiltrate because they're on top of, their vulnerabilities. They're making sure everything's patched. But, when you have a small company and you're fixing printers and you're taking help desk calls and things like that, really don't, that's really not your main focus to make sure all that's in place. So that's another problem with SMBs getting attacked more often. Of course, SMBs are under regulatory pressure, right? HIPAA, insurance companies breathing down your neck. NIST. Now we got a new tech gov uh, compliance, so it just keeps going on and on. It's hard for SMBs to keep up with that risk management. Of course, resource and expertise shortage. SMBs have limited budget, right? They have fragmented tools. They're overwhelmed by, what they're doing. Like I said, they're just IT generalists. And even if they saw something an incident from an XDR product, are they going to know what to do with it, right? There's a skills gap there also. So that's where MDR comes into play. Yeah, they have the tool, but we're monitoring it for them and giving them that information. So there is a skills gap with SMB that's there, but the MDR resolves that, right? So managed detection and response is, remediates the pain points for SMBs. But let's talk about XDR, because you need an XDR tool to get that visibility into your environment. And then the MDR team comes in and monitors it for you. Okay. Like I said, if you just have the XDR tool yourself, you're going to get an incident. You're going to look at it and you're going to be like, is this really something I need to be concerned about? What steps do I need to take? How do I investigate it? Those types of things. But that MDR is important to fill that skills gap. So, really, XDR, why XDR, right? It's to detect suspicious activity. You have an endpoint solution like ESET on your endpoint is protecting you, the endpoint against that, but it's not detecting you against anomalous behaviors, any kind of suspicious activities that are happening in your environment. Because if they breach your network because of a vulnerability, they're just going to leave little clues. And if you're not watching, you're not knowing this is happening on your network. And if you don't find it quick, then you're going to end up getting everything encrypted and your data stolen. You're going to get extorted, right? We've seen it many times. People that have our XDR platform, yeah, it's great. They're not watching it. Few little things happen and they missed it, they missed it, they missed it, and then bam. And then we can go back and say, okay, if you were watching this or somebody was watching this, this would have been stopped in less than 5 minutes, right? So that's another reason MDR is super important. We want to also we want to with our XDR we want to prevent. Okay, we want to prevent malicious activity from happening, and then prevent future occurrences through any kind of automated policy updates that we need to make. Okay, and then discover with an XDR product, you can discover exactly what's happening during the incident. A lot of people before XDR even came out, I was around, they would have something happen in their environment and we're just chasing our tail between 15 servers trying to figure who's infected, what's happening, how it happened. So XDR gives us that functionality. So what does it do? Collects real-time event data. We're collecting events off the process layer, executables, their behaviors, anything that they're doing, anything on the network, anything to the process layer. Users are adding accounts. They're increasing that, creating admin accounts on the network, creating encoded scripts, all kinds of things that we're monitoring. So we're collecting those events on the endpoint, and we're detecting those threats and issues with our MDR. We're running it through our AI tools, of course. A lot of data coming through. Our XDR platform does provide extensive filtering and sorting for it's collecting all those events and all that data, all the executables, all the scripts, what the scripts are doing, all the processes in the environment. So with this tool, this is how our MDR team blocks, isolates, and remediates, the incident immediately. And I'll show you an incident report here in a second. And it also has notification rules set up with the MDR team. You're setting up, okay, if a new incident's created, notify you guys. But by that time, we've already remediated it. So even if you come in the morning, you get that incident report, you know that it's been stopped already in its tracks. So how do we analyze these activities? We use rules to analyze them, and these rules are based off the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So we do have one of the top threat intelligence feeds out there. So if you think about it, we're building all these MITRE ATT&CK techniques into that and basically into those rules. So if those certain things happen in your environment, it's going to trigger detection and then it's going to trigger an incident. So we ship with over 1,700 default rules. In our product, if you wanted to create custom rules, you could, or edit them for your environment. You don't have to do that within the MDR space. They're going to handle all that for you. Um, but they're used to find, like I said, those known indicators of compromise. Uh, and then, of course, you got historical activity. We talked about the logs if you wanted to do any threat hunting in the environment. Our MDR team does do that threat hunting in the environment on the back end also. So this would be just the XDR tool. The MDR handles it all for you. So why MDR? I mean, we want the best security experts. A lot of people get MSSPs or MSPs to do this for them, but they're using a tool that they're not the company, right? They might be using a different company's XDR to do it, but with ESET, we're using our own tools, right? And you're getting the best security experts, of course, on the planet, and it's incident response. So through our ESET Protect platform, it's highly customizable to the ESET XDR offering. The MDR service is designed to immediately investigate, disrupt malicious activities, stop adversaries in their tracks. It performs threat hunting, monitoring, and response to implement robust cybersecurity measures for customers of any size, right? Or any security maturity level. It's always on. It's 24 by 7. We're always watching it. I've never seen anybody get attacked on a Monday at 10 a.m. No, it always happens on a Sunday night at 3 a.m. or the weekend or a holiday. You guys aren't around to watch that. I mean, you need an MDR service watching it because it could happen in a blink of an eye, right? Had a customer 3 a.m. on Sunday night, they get a call. They don't have EDR, XDR, MDR, anything. They get a call, everything, they can't get in, everything's encrypted. The basic, the IT person basically logged in through the VPN into the network, and then her laptop was encrypted. So everything's happening on the weekend, everything's happening late at night. Nobody's there to see what's going on. It's just going to happen, right? Of course, it helps compliance. If you have cybersecurity insurance, I mean, everything's really going to it. I mean, when you're looking at, I think eventually cybersecurity insurance, if you want to get a insurance policy, you're going to have MDR. Right now, most of them want you to have an XDR, but I believe MDR is coming. And I mean, it's kind of crazy because it's just getting worse and worse. I mean, here in Texas, now car dealerships have to have EDR because like Honda and Toyota and all them don't want them in their systems, to be able to infect them if they don't have the right security tools in place. So it's even getting that bad. So we talked about how you need to detect and respond quickly. I mean, even if you had a SOC team, or if you didn't have a SOC team, it's 200 plus days. They could be living on your network, just doing things, whatever they want to do to try and figure out the best way to attack you to get you to pay, right? So that's over 9 months if you don't have MDR or SOC. Internal SOC, 16 hours. Internal SOC's expensive. I mean, you got to have 4 or 5 guys. You got to rotate them. On average, they make $115,000 a year. You have 5 or 7 guys and have a SOC team, and you're still looking at 16 hours to detect and respond to an incident. And then if you have ESET MDR, we detect, respond, and remediate in less than 6 minutes. So if you think about it, it's 20,000 times faster than no SOC, 48 times faster than the SOC, and we're up to 3 times faster than any other MDR service out there. So let's look at a real life incident report. Let me drag it over. So this would be, say, you come in one morning, you get an email, we had an incident happen in the environment. This would be a report that you would get. You can also see this in your management console. It will notify you from there also. But this is an instant report on domain credential database was accessed. So when we look down in it, it gives you an incident summary first. So we identified a potentially unauthorized access to the Active Directory database. Of course, it tells you what it does. Of course, we all know. So it stores the domain users' accounts, passwords for the organization, and it was successfully extracted. So this is a high severity uh, incident, right? It's not just a warning or informational. So when you can look at the affected computers, it'll take you down into the report, but let's go back up. That would be the actual summary. Here's the indicators list. These are the rules we were talking about. So as this happened on that endpoint, it triggered this rule. So the file was written and it was written to temp. And then here's the dump where it actually dumped out that password database off of their domain controller, right? And then another thing I like to show in here, since we're uh, talking about how fast this is the timeline. So when we start down here, this all started and was created at 1551. Okay, the dumping of the credential database, and then the indicators of what happened in the device, and then we responded to it at 1554. So when you're looking at it, it's like 3 minutes for us to respond, and we actually remediated it because we went ahead and isolated the domain controller in the environment to make to get whoever's on it doing that off of it. Okay, so when you get the report, yeah, the machine's isolated. If you do your investigation, it's real easy from the console to unisolate the device, so you don't have to worry about that. If it is something that you guys were potentially doing, but the thing about it is this happens at 3 a.m. on a Saturday night. We know that it's something malicious happening or somebody's on your network. I had a customer where somebody exported the registry hive at like 3 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday of a customer and copied it into a folder called /temp/forensics. As soon as they did that, we saw it and we isolated the computer because we know nobody's going to be doing that at 3 a.m. in the morning. So you can see how the MDR service is really always continually on. The last thing I want to show you in the report is the comments. So they don't only remediate it, but they tell you what you need to do before you unisolate the computer, right? So it's basically telling you reset and change all domain passwords, credentials, rotate your service accounts, restart the KRBTGT um, account password. So it's just giving you information. And then down here, it's just telling us that they did isolate that computer. So moving on. I wanted to talk about a couple of things that are built into our solution tiers also that you get with our MDR bundle. These are pretty important. All of our endpoint solutions have what we call our solution tiers have ransomware remediation in them. So so really, it's in our endpoint protection module, right? It rolls back seamlessly automated restoration of from secure backups. So this is our own technology. We won an award at RSA for this technology because we don't use shadow copies. We don't do any of that. So we're basically with our own technology backing up and encrypting those files so that if they are in there encrypting stuff, they won't be able to get to those backups. So as part of our post execution behavior in our product, so if something gets passed, dropped on a machine through a phishing email, it gets executed in the environment. Um, what happens if it makes it to that execution phase? What we do is if it's trying to touch files or encrypt files, the process is we start making backups of those files as it's encrypting them. And this works with our ransomware shield. So the ransomware shield is running. It sees that it could potentially be ransomware. It starts encrypting files, we're backing them up, and within seconds, it'll decide that it's ransomware and it will quarantine it and kill it. But you don't lose any access to those files. You're able to go into your console and just restore those files back to the computer. So it kind of helps. It's not really there. I mean, you don't want to stop doing backups or anything, but it's really there for that user not to lose all their documents, or all those folders that they would need to work. So this was our ransomware remediation. Um, like I was talking about, we want to stop, block, and disrupt. I mean, ESET's about prevention. We're not about letting anything on your network and letting it execute. But if something happens and it does make it to that phase, right, that's where we start uh, doing those local backups, and then we just stop the ransomware behavior through that ransomware shield, and then you can restore your files back. The second one is our cloud sandboxing. We call it supercomputing as a service, ESET Live Guard. The way this works is it detects any kind of zero-day threat, something never before seen. When we're talking about that telemetry data and all those samples that we collect off all of our endpoints, we know what we've seen before, what we haven't. We know what's unknown in the environment. So if anything gets placed on an endpoint, no matter how it gets there, if it's unknown to us, we're not going to let it execute. We're going to sandbox it in the cloud. So it's behavior-based detection. Everything's tested in under 5 minutes. Usually it's just a couple of minutes for the result to come back, which is crazy. Um, it's easy to set up. It's not going to cause problems with your users or anything like that. And it works right with our security products. Our server security, our endpoint security, works in our mail security and our cloud office security for Office 365. We also use this in our XDR. So if we see an unknown file, it could potentially submit it automatically to the LiveGuard. So how it works, we're not just sandboxing these files, and it's crazy how it can do all this so quickly. But we're unpacking the file first, right? So we're scanning it with the experimental detections, and then we're doing analysis of the code and the DNA genes. So we're looking at all that. We're looking at the binaries and coming up with a verdict, and then we're sandboxing it and coming up with a verdict. So you're not getting false positives in this because everything is going through. And then we come up with a result and we decide whether it's malicious, highly suspicious, malicious, or if it's clean. And it does this all within a few minutes in the environment. So it really helps to block zero-day threats, to where nothing can get dropped on your network that there's not a detection for, right? So this is working on the endpoint. We were talking XDR, MDR. This is just talking how the endpoint uh, works. So we have two MDR bundles. I like everything coming in a solution tier because if you're trying to meet compliance and your tools are fragmented, or you have a tool, say you got vulnerability and patch management from one company, you got mail security from another, you have cloud app protection, this kind of combines it all in a solution tier and makes it affordable for our customers. But we do have everything in it to meet those compliance needs. Okay, so we have our endpoint security, we have our ransomware remediation. Of course, you get our cloud console. Another thing with ESET, if you have to be on-prem, we still do on-prem, and it's not going away with us. So if you have air gapped or anything like that, we're able to accomplish that. Of course, we have server security products. You don't have to buy another license for that. We're good across all platforms. So this license is good for Linux, servers, Windows servers, Mac. It's good for Android devices, iOS devices with their mobile threat defense, iPads, or even any kind of Android like POC or things of that nature. Uh, it comes with our cloud sandboxing, which is that advanced threat defense. Our full disk encryption is our native encryption. We don't use BitLocker. You don't have to worry about storing keys in AD. You don't have to worry about finding a key if you need to boot into safe mode or anything like that. So it's our native encryption, and we store all the recovery data on our console. Okay. So with it, you can have a pre-boot password authentication. It does do single sign-on from your Active Directory if you want, but it does have some nice anti-theft options in it. Somebody steals a laptop, you can wipe it. You can block the pre-boot login, those types of things. We do have mail security for on-prem exchange. If you have that, we also have a different product that you can buy if you have SharePoint on-prem. We still have a product for that. I know it's going away with a lot of companies. If you do SharePoint online, we do have an add-on for that too. Our mail security is for on-prem exchange, or it's for Office 365 in the cloud. So our cloud email is hooks in as a SaaS application. It doesn't run in our environment and you redirect MX records or anything like that. It goes through, of course, Defender or Office 365 Microsoft scanning. Then it goes through our scanning, but we're scanning for, of course, any phishing emails, malware. Of course, we're detecting spam, but then we're protecting the Teams, the SharePoint, and the OneDrive, and we're scanning that all in the cloud with our cloud sandboxing technology. So this is like a 5 minute setup. You hook it into your domain, pulls in all your users, you decide which ones to protect, and you're ready to go. It has a lot of features built into it. It does clawback. It does the homoglyph detection. It does a QR code detection. It has a DMARC, a DKIM, SPF check built into it. So it does a lot of stuff. It does like geo blocking. So it's pretty sophisticated mail security product that you would just get in this bundle. And then of course the XDR. Two factor is a big thing with insurance companies and compliance. So we do have a two-factor product that runs in the cloud or on-prem. So basically, you can protect Windows login, RDP. Say you need a Radius uh, server to authenticate, VPN firewall. That's built into it also. Uh, so you do have that product there. I mean, a lot of insurance companies now they just want to make sure any elevated privileged account needs a two-factor logging into anything on the network. So the way our two factor works is if you have three admin accounts, it's just three licenses. But you can install the software for that. So it asks them for two factor on as many machines as you want. Okay. And then, of course, this has the XDR we talked about, has the MDR tool in it, and it has our premium support essential, which is our 24 by 7 tech support if you need them, and it has our 24 by 7 monitoring for the XDR that we talked about. Um, we do have an MDR Ultimate. Some people want Ultimate. This is more AI based and human led. We're collecting all the detections on the back end through the MDR and creating the incident and remediating it for you in less than 6 minutes. The Ultimates, where you get our SOC team in San Diego. If you want a white glove service where you got an instant lead talking to you, you're setting up monthly meetings, looking at your security posture, letting you know of known things happening out in the wild, making sure they're not in your environment, has DFIR, everything. So that would be that MDR Ultimate. Really made more for enterprise. This MDR is more cost effective and works great for SMB also. So we do have two different MDR subscription tiers. Now let's talk about our latest customer, Gila River. Gila River just signed on with us. They did an extensive POC with us. They wanted to increase their security posture in their environment, so they took a look at ESET, and they just wanted a higher standard for protecting their data, right? They needed that XDR and MDR in their environment. Um, so when we're talking about ESET and we're prevention first, we block threats on the network level more than anything. We don't even let it get in on the machine itself. So their existing tools, we're getting on the devices. A lot of our competitors, they don't even look at a file till it executes in the environment. and just hope that they can stop it. ESET doesn't do that. We're scanning everything, the packets, everything coming in through the endpoint itself. And then they had a lot of dormant malware in their environment. So their product wasn't even looking for that. They didn't even know it was there when they put ESET on, and it detected all of those things and quarantined them for them. And they didn't just buy it; they put us to the test, right? They tested us against a lot of real threats, and we stopped them all instantly, even before reaching that device. So there's no impact. The impact of it: no more threats, no hidden malware risk, stronger protection for their data, and of course the confidence in the technology, because that's huge when you're a security guy, IT guy, or if you don't have no confidence that it's going to stop everything, you just don't sleep at night. I don't think, but that's Gila River. They just signed with our MDR. Does anybody have any questions? Pretty quick.
I don't see any in the Q&A or in the chat, but if you guys have questions, now is definitely the time to put them in here. I do have a couple, but if you want to wait
Okay.
until you're done with this slide or
Um, you can go ahead. I just popped
okay.
it up there so people could start reading it while we're doing questions.
Yeah. Um, For, if you were sitting in the chair of a IT director at a small tribe, say, with, limited budget, I know you kind of talked about this and had a lot of different competing priorities, what would you do first? Like, what would be your first thing to improve security, and where would MDR fit into that plan?
I mean, of course you're going to have an endpoint solution, but if I'm an IT director and I mean, of course there's a lot of competitors out there. You look at their XDR and the MDR and it costs so much. Pretty much out of a SMB's budget, right? So
Hmm.
ESET wants to make it cost effective for our customers because we at ESET think everybody needs MDR. So for me working here, or even an IT director, if I was an IT director, I would want somebody monitoring that for me. But the cool thing about ESET is you can start and move up. If it's a budget thing, yeah, get XDR, see if your team can monitor it. If you can't afford MDR, and then move into MDR. We have lots of customers right now that are doing that. They
Hmm.
slowly move up through the subscription tiers. But if I had the budget, I would definitely get the full package, the XDR and the MDR, you know, added
Hmm.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially, I feel like at tribes, if you're, trying to, you're competing for budget against all these different things and all these different verticals, and you have health and government, you know what I mean? So to know that you could start small and maybe, start to see the difference and then add
Right.
levels, that's really cool. Um,
Yeah.
for tribal casinos and enterprises that they're operating 24/7, what are some of the biggest security gaps you see when there isn't a dedicated when there isn't a dedicated security staff?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't have somebody monitoring what's happening, it's really the tool is just useless. I mean, it's not useless, but as far as finding that early detection, if nobody's watching it, like I said, when you get breached into your network, and say it could be through stolen credentials, when you look at like MGM or any of
Mhm.
these other like casinos and things, they get breached like that. And somebody's on your network, they're just doing little things to see and doing reconnaissance in the environment. And if those detections are missed and nobody's watching what they're doing, then you could have stopped something that could be catastrophic in your environment, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, I had a customer, uh, they they had Sentinel One, they had a vulnerability in their environment, and they got breached. Nobody was watching that either. And then, of course, they got in all their data encrypted. They went back and cleaned it all out, and 2 days later, they encrypted everything again,
Mm.
right in the environment. So no matter what, if you're using ESET or anybody else, if somebody's not monitoring it, um, then you're not detecting those little things that are happening leading up to the main event.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe moving on from that, how much involvement, like what does that look like from from a tribe's IT standpoint from their team? You know, how much involvement is needed from them once MDR is deployed?
Once you get it, as far as ESET goes, with it's kind of cool because with our cloud console, we call it Protect Console. With that console, it makes sure that everything's installed on the machine because you could have a machine setting out there with a server and you never put ESET on it. They get on your network, they're going to go straight to that machine because they're going to know it doesn't have ESET on it. So they don't have to worry about that with our product. We make sure everything's installed. If somebody uninstalls it, they get breached, they try and uninstall it, we just reinstall it.
Mm-hmm.
And we lock it all down. So from that aspect, there's not really much that they have to do. Um, as far as as far as the MDR service, I mean, really, the only time they really have to do anything is if they have an incident and they get an incident report. And then that's where you can look into that incident report and say, okay, somebody did credential dumping on my password database, on my domain controller. Who did it? Here's the user that did it. You know, hey, did you do
Mm-hmm.
this? Yeah, I did it, you know, or I didn't do it. Nobody, you know, nobody did it. Okay, what do I need to do now? So that's when your IT team has to jump in and say, okay,
Right.
let's go reset all of our passwords, kind of deal. So really,
Mm-hmm.
it's just hands off. I mean, you might not even get an incident, you know, for the whole year, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, is this thing working, or what are they doing? But we give reporting, you know, on it, on what's happening and all the detections we're looking at and what we're seeing. So even though an incident wasn't created, we're not just a black box that you're kind of saying, did are they doing anything? Yeah, we're doing something, you know,
Mm-hmm.
on the back end. Yeah.
Yeah. If there is a tribal executive leader on the call right now, and you want them to take, you know, top two, three things, you know, away from this webinar that they could start looking into or actually make that change right now, what would that be?
I mean, if you're running an endpoint solution, I mean, it's really taking that next step. I mean, you need an XDR to get that visibility into your environment because the threats today aren't, I mean, old school is you get an email, you click on something, a file drops and it encrypts. Nothing's going to get past our endpoint doing that.
Hmm.
So with today's technology and the advances in endpoint security and the way ESET is, there's no way that's going to happen. So it's all about somebody getting on your network somehow through a vulnerability, somehow somebody, you know, gives somebody access through social engineering and all that. So that's how it's happening, but you got to have the visibility. So I say
Hmm.
XDR first. If you have a team, you know, our product's cool because we have a AI incident creator built into it. So that incident report will happen, but you know, you really got to look in at it and decide and figure out what you're going to do. So that would be the first step. But I
Hmm.
really, if you don't have anybody that can watch it or that you have that skills gap with your IT team and nobody's really security, nobody really, you know, even knows what that command did when it dumped the file, those types of things, then that's when you need an MDR team, somebody
Hmm.
that's skilled to replace that gap.
Hmm.
Yeah.
My last question for you. TribalNet's coming up. Sounds like you're going to be making the trek across Texas to meet us there. What are you most looking forward to, you know, talking to everybody there at your booth and just at the event in general?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I've never been to one of these.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Uh, this is gonna be my first. Trying to finagle me a golf pass from Cheryl. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like all events. I mean, I look forward uh to meeting people, talking ESET, talking security. You know, whatever you want to do, stop by, hang out. Um, We always have fun at our booth. Just come by and say hi
Mhm.
if you are on here and you guys are going. And we're also giving away golf tickets, but I can't win, but
Oh, dang it. Listen, I'll try and win and I'll give you my pass, okay?
uh, but but we are giving away $25 Starbucks gift cards. And then you can join us at around the golf uh, on September 20th. That's Sunday at the conference. Of course, we're going to be in booth 251.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
Awesome.
book a demo with us. I can go through all of this where you can actually see our XDR tool, our Protect console in your environment, how it works, see our technology. I mean, ESET's got some of the best technology out there. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Um, Raymond, thank you so much for being on the call today and sharing all this information. It really was great and eye-opening to me, even though some of those beginning slides when you're talking about what people are paying, the ransomware and what they're having to pay for some of their data and what you can possibly do to prevent that from even happening in the first place, is what we're talking about today. So thank you for sharing some of that information. I look forward to seeing you at TribalNet in about a month. And for those of you on the call today, remember to check your email tomorrow to receive a copy or a link to this recording for you to share with anybody on your team who maybe couldn't make it today. And with that, do you have any other final words, Raymond, before we end our call today?
well, that's it. Look forward to seeing everyone.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great afternoon and take care.
Thank you.